I'm gonna give you 4 key exercises that you can use to improve your bowling for cricket, and we're gonna start right now. So the first thing I wanna do is look at cricket bowlers and what they need. They need trunk control. They need to be fast. They need to have an extremely large amount of power to apply a large amount of force. And they have to be strong. I'm sorry, but you need to be strong. And I'm gonna show you why. I like to look at cricket bowling the same way I would look at a trebuchet. The same way I would even look at someone kicking a soccer ball. The same way I look at a golfer swinging, or an ice hockey player rotating, or a field hockey player rotating, or a thrower applying a massive amount of force at high speeds. Think about Tom Walsh. Think about Tom Walsh slamming on the brake at the front. And guess what? He was a former elite level cricketer. Now, if we're watching the bowler, what's gonna happen is that they'll plant, pretend I'm throwing right-handed, they'll plant after that long approach here. This is essentially where they're gonna be slamming on the brakes. And then they're coming over the top here, and this is where the trebuchet factor comes into place. This is the brakes. This is where everything is gonna be stationary to a point, okay? And then all this energy comes into the hand, and that's the swinging portion of the trebuchet, okay? So we have to think through that lens, and then look at how can we make our legs strong enough so that we can run faster and slam on the brakes so that we can decelerate extraordinarily fast. If we decelerate very well, that's gonna lead to more energy into the hand, which in turn, ideally will lead to more force and more speed on the ball. If we have good accuracy, that's what makes a good bowler. So now that's a big factor that we have to use when we're building out this lens of these 4 key exercises. So that first key exercise, we've seen research show us a large amount of action from the glutes, a large amount of action from the quads and the hamstrings. We know glutes, quads, hamstrings, that plays a major role in the acceleration phase of sprinting. If we can get to a high speed under control on that runway as we're about to throw, and have that strength to slam on the brakes, that's gonna help us. And this is an exercise that we've used with a lot of our elite level football players for speed development. Now, where I'm gonna relate this is that if we're doing this movement, this is going to be a single leg squat. That's gonna help improve our posterior chain in a unilateral position. And the big factor here is that when we plant, okay, and think back to that trebuchet example, if we're doing a single leg squat, coming down with that slow eccentric, and we want the rear leg elevated, this is gonna help stabilize our knee, okay, our ankle, and all through our hip girdle. So that's the big factor here. We want to use this, 1, to help us run faster, 2, most importantly, to slam on the brakes as fast as possible. So use single leg squats once to twice a week. One day you can do it on that leg power day, okay? Let's say that you're doing 6 triples. And then if you have an impulse day of training, you can do 5 triples at like 60 to 65% unbroken to force your nervous system to fire really quickly and to get out of those good positions with excellent stability. These next 2 movements, okay, are exercises that I think are absolutely fantastic, and they work very well on an athlete day. So if you're a cricketer and you wanna improve your overall performance, you wanna improve your speed, you wanna improve your ability to jump higher, to rotate faster, to hit things quicker, to throw things longer and at higher speeds. We have a cricket-based program inside of our app, Peak Strength. So you can go to peakstrength.app, you can download the app and actually fill that out. And that's what you wanna train for specifically to get that individualized program. Now, these 2 movements, a sled march. Sled march is gonna target how well are you putting force into the ground and going forward, and that in turn will help with your locomotion. It's gonna help with your acceleration. It's a movement that's going to help you feel the ground and then will transfer very, very well to sprint mechanics and sprint output. And we're gonna pair that with the second exercise. That second movement would be skips for distance. So think about that penultimate landing when we're looking at a bowler. There's a little skip and then boom, slam on the brakes, release, and get that ball out of the hand as quickly as possible. So those 2 movements are gonna help you be fast on the runway and help you accelerate very quickly, but also they will train the ability to absorb force in that grounding position. And that's gonna help transfer the strength that we've developed from those single leg squats to help you throw faster. So we've given you 3 leg exercises. We want you to be fast, we want you to release fast, but we also want you to have that good control, and we want you to maintain shoulder health. So what can you do with the upper body? So when we designed Peak Strength, one of the big factors that we thought through was how can we train people who do throw quite a bit? Again, think about the bowler. How can we train their shoulders to be as healthy as possible and actually improve their shoulder strength without having a negative impact on their performance? And so what we did inside of Peak Strength was use an exercise like dumbbell external rotations. So we would use dumbbell external rotations with a bowler at least twice a week. Ironically, I mentioned we were gonna do 4 exercises. I'm gonna give you 3 shoulder movements that you guys can use to help stabilize that shoulder girdle. Okay, so that first one is gonna be the shoulder external rotation. The second upper body exercise is going to be shoulder tantrums, okay? So we wanna get into a position that's gonna mimic or get close to where we're at as we're about to release, and we wanna focus on shoulder tantrums. Now, I know the arm might be bent a little bit when you're doing shoulder tantrums, but it's still gonna help strengthen that shoulder girdle. And I would do this once a week at higher speeds, and you can even do this on an athlete day or on an impulse day if you only wanna train 4 days a week. Remember, part of becoming an elite level athlete is that you probably should train 4 days a week for 4 weeks and then do that for 4 years. That's how you're gonna become an elite cricket bowler. Now, the third upper body exercise, okay, is going to be an incline Y. And I'll demonstrate this here, is I wanna focus on longer arms, okay, here, come up and control that on the way down. Okay, here, boom, control on the way down. Control, let's do 2 more. We wanna try and keep that as long as possible. So, if we're doing the right mobility, and we're doing the right leg work, and we're doing the right shoulder strengthening and shoulder maintenance work, we're gonna become a better bowler. We're gonna be able to run at higher speeds. We're going to be able to decelerate the fastest, and in turn, lead to the most amount of force into that hand. That's gonna help build this huge base, which will mimic that trebuchet. Okay, so use all these exercises. If you need help with your programming, head over to peakstrength.app, the Google Play Store, the Apple iOS Store, and get inside of Peak Strength today. Because remember, freaks, if you want to become a champion, you've always got to cultivate your power. Peace.